Welcome back to Wake Up College Football from Kennebunkport, Maine.
No, come on.
I'm in Los Angeles. I'm here for the holidays. I'm in my childhood bedroom because that's what you do when you come home for the holidays and take an extended vacation. Of course, I am joined post-playoff, post-New Year's Eve and Day bowl games by Ryan Nanny. Ryan, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm also in my childhood bedroom here at the SB Nation. I was born and raised in the SB Nation New York studios. No, I'm good. You are probably in a better mood than I am today. Not that I'm in a bad one, but
Right.
you have a lot of reason to feel good about life in 2015.
I do feel pretty good. After I was at the game yesterday between Florida State and Oregon, of course, one of the semifinal matchups. It was enjoyable as an Oregon fan and alumnus, but more so because we got to see an entertaining game. I mean, even if you're a Florida State fan, Florida State played well for a good chunk of it, at least. And we got to see some Oregon speed on display. We got to see the Heisman Trophy winner. That's probably not a great thing if you're a Florida State fan, but we got to see the Heisman Trophy winner play well, at least in the second half, and Oregon eventually stomped the defending champs. So on that note, I ask you, or I guess I could just build on that because that's my awesome thing, and then we're going to get into your awesome thing. So my awesome thing is not a surprise. It is Oregon running away from Florida State in the Rose Bowl on the West Coast, a game in which Oregon really probably had 80% of the stadium. It was very clearly green and yellow, and it's a little bit awesome. It's a little bit unexpected. It's a little bit meaningful, but I'm going to go with awesome just because of how well Oregon's defense was not getting stops. They were not stopping Florida State in terms of third and out, 3-4, punt, turnover on downs. They were in the first half a little bit, but in that second half, Jameis Winston was rolling. The passing game was rolling. They were picking up chunks of yards. The awesome part was just how often and really crucial those turnovers that they were able to force were, and so demoralizing. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of, and when we talked about this game beforehand, and I'll let you jump in here obviously in a minute because I have a lot of things to say. We were not expecting, even if Oregon were to win, a blowout the way that Oregon's been handling everybody. I think was awesome, the way that Oregon was able to jump on Florida State as if they were any other team on Oregon's schedule.
And even when the blowout was in the midst of happening, because it's Florida State, I certainly never said to myself, okay, it took me much longer than it would have taken with other teams Oregon could have been beating to say, yep, this one is done, this one is over. I think the interesting thing about this game from my perspective was Oregon played very well. By no means did they have a perfect game. They missed a fourth down conversion where a lot of people thought they probably should have gone for a field goal early in the game.
Right.
They, Marcus Mariota missed some passes that he normally wouldn't miss. They had a lot of what felt like inopportune penalties.
Yes.
Were hurting them at points in the game.
Yep.
So it's a little scary to say that Oregon can play I would say like A- game. And still just destroy a Florida State team like that, who maybe it wasn't as rough as the final score indicates because Oregon was just so good at turning turnovers into touchdowns. But that said, you don't walk away from that game and really have a lot of doubts about how talented and scary Oregon is at this point.
Okay, and to you, there were a number of games, but to you, what stands out to you when you look at the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, playoff, whatever, as just the awesome performance of the past 48 hours?
So if we're just looking at the 31st and the 1st, those games, it's really hard for me not to give awesome props to TCU.
Yeah.
The way they just cut Dr. Bo was on the receiving end of the surgery in this game. He has been sliced open down the middle. All of his organs have been taken out, put back in the wrong places, and he's going to be dead in a week.
His pancreas was in his head making those decisions.
It was just, Ole Miss's D, I think, did a good job of hanging in there and trying to limit the damage, but the field position was just so bad for them.
Yep.
TCU constantly at their own 40, the 50, Ole Miss's 35. It's just you can't stop that tidal wave for all that long. And when you hold a team in a major bowl game to 9 rushing yards on 37 attempts, and that's in part because they sacked Bo Wallace 5 times.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that was as good a case as they could have made of, hey, you should have put us in the playoff. Now, I'll transition that into my unexpected because this worked out pretty nicely for the playoff committee, I think.
Yes, it did.
Because if there was one team you would say didn't necessarily play to the standards of the other 3 of the semifinalists yesterday, it'd be Florida State. And it would have been crazy to leave out an undefeated ACC champion that played good competition all year.
Especially after seeing how well Georgia Tech played against Mississippi State, and Florida State's win over them looked even better heading into the Rose Bowl.
Absolutely. So there was certainly a possibility where you say Alabama, let's say, stomps on Ohio State. You look at that TCU game, and everybody gets their dander up and says TCU should have been in the playoff. That is not what happened, and unexpectedly, it's because Ohio State was able to run all over Alabama. Ezekiel Elliott had his best game of the season against the Alabama run defense. How does that happen?
It was incredible how the strides that Ohio State's offensive line has taken week in and week out this season, and it was very clear that Alabama had to respect Cardale Jones through the air, who has easily the best arm left in college football, and there's a Heisman Trophy winner on the other side of the field in the national championship. And how much they had to respect how complete Ohio State's offense was, and wisely enough, Ohio State and Urban Meyer, Tom Herman, able to take advantage until the last series when, for some reason, they stopped running the ball on the clock. But whatever, they managed to survive that weird blunder. But to sort of to spin off on what you've been saying, the SEC to me was so unexpected just because, and I'm not going to sit here and say they were complete frauds and they never should. No, these are really good teams that beat each other up throughout the season, had good non-conference wins, and we expected, rightfully, for them to be more during bowl season. Now, granted, teams and motivations vary, but Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, these are all teams that were in playoff conversations or in the playoff later on into the season. And for them all to just acquit themselves and their division, this historic division, so poorly. The Auburn game against Wisconsin. Wisconsin runs all over Auburn.
400 rushing yards!
Not a huge surprise because Auburn was
I'm sorry.
Terrible.
Allowing 400 rushing yards
inexcusable.
Is a surprise.
Yes, it is. But for Auburn to, I think, the turnover battle wasn't anything crazy. Auburn did a pretty good job. It was just they couldn't stop the run, and ultimately that was, if you can't stop the run, you don't deserve any success. That is just a mainstay of college football discipline. And then for Mississippi State, who had a great game on offense, but just unable to get their own defense off the field against Georgia Tech, which, granted, Georgia Tech is a top 5 offense in the country. They're ridiculous. But Ole Miss, we talked about, and just how much they laid down for TCU and just couldn't get anything going. Alabama, of course, we talked about. The turnover thing was just, they couldn't get past it. It was just, and for them to allow what they allowed on the ground as well. And then LSU and Notre Dame. Notre Dame didn't make mistakes. That's, I mean, and LSU doesn't have an offense outside of Leonard Fournette.
The referees did in that game, but
that's true. No, there was that too. But for Notre Dame not to hand the game away,
right?
And playing against an LSU defense that's as fast and dangerous and able to turn teams over, it was a shocker to me. So.
It has been an interesting bowl season because outside of the Pac-12, the Pac-12 I think has only lost one bowl game, that Arizona lost to Boise State.
Right.
Outside of the Pac-12, every other conference has like 2 notable teams that have just gotten thrashed.
Yeah.
Like Big 12 has Oklahoma and Texas. The Big 10 has Illinois and Maryland.
But those are not notable teams. But yeah, Big 10 actually at the top. Yeah, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. Yeah.
The ACC Louisville got thrashed by Georgia. So there has been. It has been a. I like to see the wealth being spread of teams just unexpectedly getting stabbed a million times in the chest.
I know you haven't thought about it too extensively yet, and we are all going as SB Nation's college football team to Texas in a few days to pump out all sorts of content. And the next time we'll be doing this show will be the morning after the national championship game. But what are your immediate sort of takeaways now that we know the matchup between Ohio State and Oregon? What immediately stands out to you as sort of linchpin keys? Where is that game decided?
My initial reaction is third down. Oregon's third down offense, which was the part of their demise in their only loss this season against Arizona. I think they only converted around like 25% in that game. Has been really good the rest of the season. They rank around like 7th or 8th. They convert about half or a little over half of their third downs. And Ohio State's third down defense, especially last night against Alabama, and it's not even a matter of Ohio State puts you in 3rd and 12 and who's going to convert 3rd and 12. It's you have 3rd and 4 and Ohio State shut you down. Yeah,
they were. What was Alabama last night? 2 of 13, 2 of 15.
I think it was like 2. They only converted 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Yeah, it was just embarrassing, and I think that's going to be the tough battle, because if Oregon can keep up its success and stay on the field, I mean, you saw what they were able to do. If they get running against you and they start picking up conversions and doing their tempo thing, it's difficult to play against. But if you can get that third down stop early in the drive,
this is true.
So much of their offense falls apart. I have no prediction as to which one of those is going to hold true.
Right.
But it will be really interesting to see, because I think Ohio State's defense, they have really gotten kind of
absolutely
scary in the last 2 games in ways that, maybe we should have seen it coming against the lesser opponents that they dominated. But
and
it'll be fun.
They didn't always dominate lesser opponents as well, though. That defense, they gave up some on the ground to Michigan, to Indiana. Like, they were not a perfect defense, but they've certainly gotten much better over the course of the season. To have the front that Ohio State has with Bosa and Bennett, Adolphus Washington, Darren Lee is everywhere on the field, Von Bell, Doran Grant, all these guys have been peaking since that Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin. I think it's actually very true for Oregon on the other side of the field. They weren't fantastic in terms of getting the Florida State offense off the field in a traditional way. Not traditional way, but with outside of turnovers.
Do you mean falling backwards because you've been tackled by a ghost and fumbling the ball isn't traditional?
Possibly not traditional. But Oregon, we saw a big 3rd and 21 get converted by Florida State. Jameis Winston, they need to be able to get pressure on Cardale Jones. And Oregon's done a good job against more mobile quarterbacks. Brett Hundley was limited. Even this scheme, not these players, a couple of years ago in the national championship, Cam Newton was held down in that game on the ground. He did not have a fantastic game. It was low scoring. So I feel pretty good about Oregon's game plan going in, but yeah, it is going to be that defense wrapping up, forcing 3rd and 9s and converting, because that's not something they necessarily did consistently against Florida State. Ohio State, a different team. Oregon has the speed to run with the Buckeyes, but I think you're totally right. Third down on both sides is going to decide this game. As for who can sort of keep those drives going, because Oregon traditionally they score boom, 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 boom normally. Against Florida State, 4, 5, 6-minute drives that just wore them down. So.
Right. The most exciting thing about this national championship for me, somebody who, unlike you, has no stake in the outcome.
Right.
There's a potential for there to be a ton of big plays in this game. Oregon can rip off big runs against you. They can, roll Mariota out of the pocket, and look, he found this guy 40 yards away who's untouched. Ohio State, certainly, like you said, Cardale Jones. It's not just that he's so strong, but that he can make the strong pass that's also surprisingly accurate.
Right.
So you just don't have time if you're a safety or a cornerback to say, okay, deep ball's in the air, I'm a little out of position, but there's time for me to get there. Not really against Cardale Jones. You have to really be in that receiver's hip pocket the whole way, because he's going to put the ball mostly within the catch radius.
Yes. Yes, he is. All right. We don't have any gift to go out on. I mean, you mentioned the Jameis Ghost.
You should definitely watch. I wouldn't even pick that. I would pick Baylor's. What is he? 390 pounds.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the fattest of fat guys. It was like a small country caught a touchdown.
I saw that gif. I have so much catching up to do. I was at the game all day yesterday. But yes. I saw the Lance Stevenson blowing Jameis Winston over. I enjoyed that as well.
But Baylor threw a touchdown to the country of Peru. And he ran with the ball.
Look that up. Ryan, Thank you very much. I will see you in Texas.
All right, have a good one, buddy.
Yay.